Ladies and gentlemen, my name's Paul, hopefully having an amazing day. Are you interested in picking up the upcoming Zen 5 processors for the AM5 platform? Well, despite the fact that AMD did disclose many details of the Ryzen 9000 series, pricing and the release date were not in amongst those details. But, courtesy of the internet, things may have started to change with some leaks. So WCCF Tech actually noticed a preliminary listing from Canada Computers. Now, it has now been removed by Canada Computers, but well, WCCF Tech managed to snag it. So the 9950X, which of course is the highest end SKU in the vanilla lineup, allegedly is going to be debuting at 839 Canadian. That's around 610 US dollars, depending on the exact exchange rate. Now, if this is true, this would actually mean it would be significantly cheaper than what we saw for the Zen 4 CPUs, like the 7950X. If you remember, that actually launched at 699 US dollars, with the 12-core 7900X being 549 US dollars. So this would actually be very interesting. It would be very competitive in terms of pricing. But furthermore, there is something else. Now, as for the release date, you may remember that over the last couple of videos when I've discussed the Ryzen 9000 series, I have mentioned the 31st of July is a date that did seem to be the release for these upcoming processors. And I'm certainly not the only one who's hinted July. There have been other leaks as well that basically have said at some point in July. Huang An Fo, I believe that's how you pronounce their name, but they are also on Twitter. They have also teased this date, so this is certainly looking like it is going to be the date, because now we have B and H, and they have also stated that the pre-orders do start, and it does seem like July 31st. Now, it's going to be interesting because it's possible this means that this is going to be the date of the pre-orders rather than the actual release date. But again, unfortunately, AMD have not confirmed this stuff. It's going to be very interesting as well to see whether the rumors concerning the X3D variants launching at a faster rate to what we saw with the, Zen 4 or Zen 3 CPUs, because Intel's Arrow Lake seems to be launching in September. That's what all of the rumors at the moment are stating. Intel have disclosed a lot of details, of course, of their processors. It's going to be very curious to see how the pricing and performance of all of these CPUs ends up. I will be extremely interested to see what the marketing strategies are like. Obviously, Intel are kind of going through the ringer at the moment with their 13900 and well, actually the 13th and 14th generation processors. And, instabilities. I've not personally experienced any issues with my systems, but that doesn't really bring comfort to the, well, quite frankly, a lot of people that have experienced the issues. So it's going to be very interesting to see how the market responds to this. Obviously, the one great thing about with Zen 5 CPUs is that it's basically a drop-in upgrade. If you already have an AM5 board, then you're good to go. But with Intel, yet again, it is a new socket, and that's always fun. Now, one last story before I let you go. Oh, and actually, just as a quick aside, of course, with pricing, I haven't been able to confirm those prices. The only thing I have heard is that I heard that the previous generation's prices were going to be the maximum that AMD were going to charge, and they may be aiming for lower, but again, I've not been able to confirm anything at this point, so all I can tell you is that the date, the 31st, definitely seems to be something that they are targeting. But let's move on to Intel's Battlemage. Now, Intel have officially disclosed a lot of the details of the architecture. However, they have not disclosed the various SKUs in the Battlemage lineup. Now, I have discussed the specifications of Battlemage in the past, but I have a couple of small updates for you for G21 and 31. So starting with G21, it has 20 XE units, 192-bit bus, 19 Gbps, 24 megabytes of cache, and 200 watts. 32 XE units, 256-bit bus, 20 Gbps memory, 32 megabytes, and 280 watts. Now, I'm sure at this point you're probably aware that there are a lot of changes in terms of how the actual Battlemage architecture is kind of put together versus Alchemist, hence the reason that the total number of XE units hasn't significantly increased. One way to kind of think of this, and it's one of the reasons that we saw those numbers essentially double back in the olden days of the leaks, like 40 and 64 respectively, but basically just the number of stuff inside of the various XE cores has changed significantly. I've spoken about it in previous leaks, but now Intel is starting to disclose all of this stuff anyway, so I'm not going to regale you with all of that information because at this point it's a little bit old news. Either way, 280 watt TDP. I don't have any updates to the performance at this point, unfortunately. I have had some folks who have said it's kind of like going to be mid-range, but even if you were to say, because the older rumors is like that's like a 4070 to a 4070 Ti-ish, I haven't been able to find anything additional to that. And at this point, the problem is with those, claims, it's like, how are you actually, well, kind of measuring that? Is it compute? Is it rasterization performance? Is it gaming performance? If so, which application? Are we talking like one specific app, like some 3D Mark application? Is it like, some old ass game like Rise of the Tomb Raider? How does it work? So that's the issue with, kind of benchmarks at this point. But I do think Intel will be doing pretty well with Battlemage. It seems that according to their teams anyway, officially, all of their work now is focused on software optimizations and drivers. That is official information. Their teams in terms of engineering for hardware are now moving on to Celestial and are finishing up Celestial. I have heard that Celestial is doing quite well. Obviously with Battlemage as well as Celestial, they're going to be very important for the iGPUs of their various CPUs going forward. As I'm sure you're aware, AMD are really pushing their iGPUs as well, and they are certainly not the only ones. We've seen a lot of official statements from, for example, Microsoft and what they're doing with their various Surface laptops, and of course even Nvidia are getting in on the act as well. Obviously you probably heard the various things with Dell, so it's going to be an interesting one going forward. With that said, guys, I think that's just about it for this particular video. I'm going to leave you to it. Unfortunately, sorry about my voice. I'm a little sick at the moment. I'm kind of just getting over a bit of a cold. It's not too bad. Unfortunately, it's just making me a bit snuffly, so I'm sorry for that. Take care of yourselves. Bye for now.